Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Hello and welcome to the All In Podcast. It has been a while, but we are finally back. It's me and Kevin. I'm Mitchell, your host, and you know, it has been a long break, but we finally made it back, and I am so happy to actually be doing this again. But we're gonna start off, just why did we take so long to come back? We're gonna give you a little update on our lives before we get into some League of Legends topics, because you'll be seeing us a bit more often now. We're gonna be in a bit more regular schedule. So, how you doing, Kevin? What you been up to?
Yesterday morning I just moved to Seattle, so I got here a little past midnight. Had to go buy cat litter at 1 a.m. in Seattle because Amazon, the only package they didn't deliver was the cat litter on time. And I was like, okay, awesome. So I was out, and I live in Bellevue, so I was out crossing the bridge in an Uber to go get cat litter. But it's been an adventure. I'm moving out here for my job, and so lots of cool opportunities that are coming with that. But I can elaborate that in a bit. Mostly just moved my whole life, and I don't even have my computer yet. I'm on a laptop right now, as you can tell by the camera quality and the earbuds.
Yeah, and you're been in a dungeon, right? You're saying halfway between normal and halfway to Alistair's bat cave, a little cameo.
Yeah, I'm not fully in the darkness, yeah, but I yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a setup. I don't even have like a table set up because I have a huge table and I'm trying to figure out how much room I'll have left because a lot of my life is in boxes now and I don't know where I'm going to store all these boxes, so I can't just start buying furniture without, making space for everything.
Yeah.
But these are all, first world problems. Yep. What have you been up to though, man?
You're adult.
I haven't heard from you in a bit.
Yeah, no, I've been real busy. I still live in Oakland, still hanging out here. But I have been working and I've also been like a part of a startup. So I'll talk a bit about that. I met this guy. His name is Bernd Wall. He's like this famous mathematician dude, former professor at Berkeley, and we just ran into each other and started talking about math. I got a degree in math for my undergrad, and we just like started connecting. And he discovered this thing called linear fractals back in the 80s or 90s. So kind of this legendary mathematician just wandering around Oakland, and we just chatted up. He's writing this book that's kind of like on the history of mathematics and fractals and all these famous individuals that he's like had the chance to interact with, and I'm making art for the book. So that's kind of like what my life has been up to right now, and it's been a whirlwind of going to like different conferences, different events. Like he just gets to waltz into places and be like, "Hey, I'm Barrett Wall. Invite me in. This is my attaché, my assistant. Bring him in too." I got to go to like this VIP lounge for this like developer week conference. It was really crazy. Um, we went to this like fancy museum thing where I got to like talk to the director of the museum, and it's just been really cool. I went to the School of Berkeley. I met the dean of the School of Information, so it has been a really wild journey. And I'm going to talk to you more guys about that because I'm honestly going to try and you know kind of sell you guys on the book and everything, and I think it's really interesting. So you guys might hear more about it. Same with you, Kevin. I might talk to you about it more later. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've been doing. Yeah, do you have any questions about it? Do you have any comments? We can kind of do a little back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, at first when I heard about it, I was like, okay, this guy doesn't even sound like he's a real person because like why is he just roaming around Oakland looking for like just looking to talk to people about fractals? But then I think getting to go see the dean at Berkeley, the School of Information, that's sick. Like it's clear he has like a lot of history, and honestly, I can't believe this whole time, not just this guy specifically, that's really sick. I can't believe this whole time we've been talking about numbers in league and balance patches, and you never flexed your degree, man. Like I know about it personally, but I was like, damn, he's just like he's not gonna just say like, oh, by the way, I know the math.
Yeah.
So I think that's some great restraint on your end. But I mean, real quickly, like just tell me a little bit more about like what you guys are actually doing with this book, because as a League player myself. I actually personally do like to
Yeah.
read. I just haven't had as much time to do it recently.
Yeah, so he one of the first things that made me realize he was legit is I attended one of his lectures at Berkeley. I walked into a classroom and he was lecturing, and it was pretty cool. Uh, so I knew from then it was legit.
That
Yeah,
would do
that'll do it, right?
it.
And then he is also a part of something called Berkeley Math Circle. It's basically a program for like high schoolers or middle schoolers to get into like higher level math, and he like helps run that,
Mhm.
and he like has a couple courses for that. So the book is actually targeted towards a younger audience. um, so it's like showing a lot of the like famous people. It's more of a picture book, right? It's a lot of the famous
Mhm.
people and their famous arts that are related to fractals, that were derived from fractals. A lot of really influential famous people in tech, like so the book is honoring Benoit Mandelbrot. Benoit Mandelbrot is a famous mathematician. He discovered the Mandelbrot set. He didn't actually, but it's named after him, so we'll just go with that. And it's a very
Insect kick wasn't really discovered by insect, but that's just how
yeah,
life
that's
works.
true, right? Yeah, that's funny. That's very true. Yeah, that's actually that's a good reference.
If you really think about it, there are lots of really good content creators in NA who are doing videos on this way back.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
no.
could get into it. I
Insect
just
was just the first one to do it in a big tournament, a big moment, and then the Lee Sin Warthog kick got named
mhm.
after him, right? Um, but yeah,
Yep.
going back to Benoit Mandelbrot, is he discovered a Mandelbrot set, which is you can Google it. It's pretty popular. It's sees on shirts and stuff. It's a type of fractal, and he was a mentor figure to Bernd Wall, and he wants to honor him for his 100th birthday. So Mandelbrot passed away a while ago, but it's his 100th birthday this year. So yeah, that's kind of what the book is for, and like a bunch of different famous people are going to be cameoing in the book, a bunch of different arts. So like, I won't say too much, but like, let's see, some certain Jackson Pollock paintings, right, are very clearly inspired by fractals. There's a famous fashion designer named Jane Barnes. Her entire work and everything that all the clothing she makes is based on fractal designs, stuff like that. It's just all the influence that Bernd Wall, the guy, has personally had an influence in, and then just fractals in general, how they've affected the world in mathematics and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a cool, fun book. It won't be a dense read or anything. It'll be mostly pictures and visuals, and so
Oh, now you're speaking my language of recently because I read a lot of manga these
there
days.
you go.
I'll also add in we've talked about fractals a little bit in the past too. From what I understand, it also helped with the art of 3D animation. No, like the advancement of fractals, especially linear fractals, was what I believe you said led to stop studios like Pixar.
Yes.
Pushing forward huge advances in 3D animation. So it all kind of ties in because, like, I mean, League these days we're known for like really sick cinematics back in the day, and then obviously Arcane, right? And that kind of 3D animation and stuff. I'm assuming I'm very uninformed, but that seems like that's the evolution. So it all kind of ties together. It's people like this and those discoveries, like directly led to our ability to enjoy sick things like that.
Exactly.
I mean, still a lot of stuff is hand drawn. Yes, I understand, and I love hand drawn. I'm an anime freak, but I will say like the 3D stuff that is more and more incorporated in the stuff I love is incredible and wouldn't without fractals or
Yeah.
math in general we wouldn't be able to
No,
do it.
110%. Yeah, the basis of the animation companies in Pixar and in Disney, and even how the company Apple was founded was through the discovery of fractals, and in large part by linear fractals by this guy named Barrett Wall, who is just roaming around and picking up randos like me to jump on his projects, right? So it's been pretty cool. And then
He can smell your A-Ram,
I
Will.
know.
He's actually looking to get a
I
boost.
know, right? Dude, okay, so actually tonight, bit of a side story. We went to this little event that had it's this big,
Uh-huh.
it's called the Museum of Digital Art and Entertainment. It's in downtown
Mhm.
Oakland, and upstairs is this like it's like think of it, it's like a user group for like animators and stuff. So perfect what we're doing. So we get to talk to a bunch of like amateur animators, talk to a couple like little hardware engineers that like to make knickknacks and stuff. So like I was talking to this guy who's trying to fix his Atari 2600 Junior, which is really cool. I was watching him like solder it and like take it apart and like plug
Mhm.
stuff in and stuff on like a CRT. And then there's this other guy who was talking about the Apple Vision Pro and like he works at Apple and stuff like that. It was very interesting. And then downstairs, you'll love this, right? I'm upstairs. Downstairs, there is a Super Smash Bros. Melee tournament going on. And they are yelling and they're playing, and then it's just like this whole crazy like location. So if you ever visit Oakland again, I'll take you here. Museum of Digital Art and Entertainment. It's really cool. They have bi-weekly melee tournaments, and they have weekly like just amateur graphic design animator sort of user groups. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. They hosted Genesis, which is one of the biggest fighting game tournaments for
Oh.
Smash, and Oakland right before
Yeah.
COVID actually. So this time of year, right before COVID, and while COVID was technically happening, it was just not as big, and we didn't really know much about it yet. So I was like, "Oh, I should go to the tournament." I'm like, "But I heard about this COVID
Yeah.
thing." I don't know, it's probably not that big a deal. I didn't go, but I would have gotten
Damn.
COVID 100%. It was a super spreader
Yeah.
event.
Sounds about right.
But that's sick. Hopefully, we will get to hear a little bit more when the book comes out. I don't know when the timeline is and everything, but especially if it's an easy read, it is like stuff like this. I think like I've kind of always wanted something like this adjacent for
Yeah.
gaming because like I think a lot of kids, right? These days it's a little easier. They have iPads and stuff, but like you grow up, especially when we grew up, like there was no way to tell our parents like, hey, this is like legit. There's like literature when it's in a book. I honestly think my parents are more likely to believe it's legit. But also just for kids, just to see like proper like how would I say, like a professional material, I guess it
Yeah.
would be, instead of just like a streamer yelling. You can see like, hey, this is also a respected profession. It's something I can show my parents. In terms of
Well, that is a brilliant idea, Kevin. Let's write a book on like the history of esports or the history of League of Legends or the history of like some sort of video game or something. That could be really cool. It wouldn't even have to be that hard. We could make it like very visual book, right? Coming up with the images, easier than ever these days, right? I'm doing a lot of AI generation. I'm doing a lot of Photoshop. That's kind of right up my alley. We
mm,
could definitely think about this. This is a little
uh,
startup on our own.
well, the All In podcast has become also a platform for other kinds of media at this rate.
100%, yeah. We'll diversify. We'll diversify because clearly making episodes was not happening for a little bit. um,
Oh
yeah,
god.
and then last thing, we're not gonna talk about this too much because we got to talk about other stuff. But I am also
Mm,
there's a second company I'm working with Barrett on, and that's a shipping containers as homes as a company.
mm.
So basically making them in. We have a robotics factory that's going to turn them into an assembly line to make these shipping containers for homes and sell them to the city of Oakland. So if you guys need a shipping container and you're in Oakland, let me know. If you're not in Oakland, well, wait a couple months to a year, and maybe we can send one out to you. Who knows? Like, who knows where this will go? So, all these random startups I'm kind of getting a part of. But yeah, let's just leave that at that. Let's not go into that too much because that'll take forever, honestly. I know you have questions. Okay, you can ask one question. Do you have any questions?
Well, yeah, I've heard some concepts like this, which because like I mean, I was in the Bay Area for a long
Yeah.
time, and this kind of housing stuff, like it's just an issue, right? To have
Yeah.
housing. I'm curious, as like how do they make, like plumbing and all that stuff work inside a shipping container? I mean, obviously that's probably why you need to do all this like manufacturing stuff. Did you say 3D printing or did you just say
No,
manufacturing?
it's just a
Because I don't think a 3D printer can go at that
no.
scale. So it's
Yeah,
like,
it's just gonna be a robotics factory that puts them on an assembly line.
oh,
So the company already exists. It's just the expansion part that I'm kind of jumping on, where it gets huge, right?
mm,
Um, but the water and all that stuff, electricity, I don't have to worry about that. But I will tell you that the state of California, because of housing crisis, they removed a lot of regulation in that area because it was holding a lot of homes and a lot of like tiny homes and a lot of similar um,
just basic alternative housing methods.
alternative housing methods, exactly, where a lot of regulation was like made lighter in those areas because of the housing crisis in California. So it is a lot easier for us to like figure out ways how we can get water and electricity and internet and stuff to the shipping container homes. And I work at Comcast, so I can give you some sweet internet deals. Um, yeah, we'll see about that.
Okay,
So it
well,
can all link up.
everything comes together
Maybe,
then.
maybe, yeah,
Damn.
we'll see, we'll see. It's still in the works, still in the works. But okay, that's a little
Mhm.
bit about us. Anything else you want to bring up before we talk about some League of Legends?
I can't go too far into it myself, but I will also be talking on the podcast when I'm allowed to about potential collaborations and stuff that I'm doing with esports
Oh.
companies. I know right now esports sponsorship and stuff isn't super big, but I in my role as an e-commerce person, I'm starting to work with some of these esports companies. That's kind of one of my specializations I'm going into. So when I know I can publicly release like the companies I work with and potential like well, you have to make sure there's no conflicts of interest and all that stuff. But just when I do know I can announce it, there might be exciting news for the podcast. Like hey, we're doing this thing with this company. You should go check them out and
Mm.
stuff like that. And then hopefully they'll sponsor us someday. But that's way down the road.
Yeah.
I just would love to float the idea that there are some well-known organizations out there that hopefully, if I can get them off the ground and get them popping at my company, we could really go far.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. We're both doing great things. Please let me know, let us know about that. That's,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's a company with a little horse on there, a little horse logo. That'd be great. Uh,
I mean that I've heard of companies like that.
okay, well, sweet, sweet. So we're doing great. So perfect excuses to why we haven't been recording episodes. But now let's talk about some League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little news, just something to bring up before we get into LCS. What is going on with LCK? They can't play games right now, can they? They're getting DDoS attacked. Like, what is happening? Do you know too much about this? So I don't actually know a ton. I have kind of been too busy to watch too much LCK compared to before. But they're going to
Yeah.
pre-recorded.
So what happened was DRX versus Dawn or D plus Jesus Christ. Two world champions teams, right? Were against each other, regular season game, best of three. The series went 6 hours and 15 minutes, guys. Essentially, what happened was they do play on land, but it's a local area. I guess the way they set up Lowell Park, which is where LCK is hosted, is so susceptible to what they are deeming a DDoS attack, or maybe it was speculation, but I believe they actually came out and said like that's why they had to push the other games to basically play from home because they're like we can't do this in the stadium, right? And so what that means is like even like their LAN network, right? I guess they must have to connect to something, right? They're probably not hosting a whole tournament
Mhm.
server inside their Lowell Park, which is interesting because I get it for LCS Studio. It's smaller and it's not like a big thing. Lowell Park's a
Yeah.
stadium. How do they not have a dedicated server that's isolated from everything? Unless the point of ingress is like, I mean, you still need to broadcast, right? So maybe but the games were the ones that was getting screwed up. So
I
I
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
They probably can't release too many details. Like if you've ever worked in data security, like the more details you give about this is exactly how we got hit. This is our vulnerabilities before you patch them and fix them. Probably not in their favor, but I will say I mean, LCS is just on another level compared to
Yeah.
LCK. I mean, Europe was already the pause region, but holy cow. I think they've actually set the record for world latest first blood and snooziest best of three
Oh my
ever.
God. Yeah. True. Probably, huh? Yeah. But it's
Because the first blood was like 22 minutes, 23 minutes last year. That was the record they set. And then this year is a 6 hour and 50-second series for a best of three.
yeah, that's pretty wild. Okay, yeah, unfortunate. I wonder how they'll fix that. Because if they're getting DDoSed and they're in tournament realm, like that sounds like an internal issue. Like, is someone DDoSing them internally, like a company employee? I don't know. That just sounds weird. I don't know how that's gonna work.
Yeah, maybe there's a security flaw that lets someone like maybe they socially engineer got the credentials of a company employee. They're just like masquerading as that and
Yeah,
using that credential
maybe
to
someone
tag.
got phished.
Dude, I'm not a computer scientist, but I do know a lot of people in a lot of situations where people have had data
Maybe,
issues
yeah, someone got
because
fished, and that was it. But also, I read there's a comment that says streamers literally have not been able to stream solo queue in Korea for the past 2 months. What does that mean? Does that mean like the entire Korean server is?
no, that's probably talking about Twitch. No, Twitch is downsizing and
No,
leaving
this is
Korea.
in the same thread as LCK moving to pre-recorded games for Remain this week due to DDoS attacks.
Oh, is Korea getting DDoS? Like, what is
I don't
going
know
on?
what that means. So
Interesting. Well, we'll look into it, and if there's a follow up to the story, we'll do it on next week's
Yeah,
episode. Then,
super
because
weird,
I
super
mean,
strange.
I didn't see that. I was reading the post when it was like
Mhm.
fresh, so I only saw like just discussing the situation. I do try to watch LCK, but I've also been busy moving, so I haven't had that much time to catch all the games. And I'm not watching a 6 hour pause
Nah,
fest.
yeah, fuck that. Um,
Ain't no
yeah,
way.
all right. Well, we'll move back to LCS now. Actually, before we go to LCS, how you feeling
Mhm.
playing League of Legends? Have you been playing much? What are your thoughts on the new season? We're like what 2, 3 months into the new season now. What are your how's the ARAM going? What you cooking?
So Aaron's been pretty hit or miss. I like the new items. I truly think that having a breath of fresh air in terms of just like trying all this random stuff that can be broken is exciting. I just wish that, and I think this is becoming a little bit more of a discussion, right? I don't know who. Okay, actually, that's not true. I do know someone who's close to someone on the
Mm,
balance team for ARAM
hmm
specifically, but for everything else, like I have no idea what they're doing. Like, a quick thing I'll go for the positives and the negatives. The negatives, I would say, is like there are just times where they release Rek'Sai, right? And it's just unplayable. I'm like, no human sat down and thought this is like at least within a standard deviation of reasonable. It was doing no damage, and they're like, wow, it does not. I'm like, okay, but like it doesn't do anything after that. Like this character is unplayable, at least at my elo in ARAM. So these are very specific check marks, right? So I do think that for a while there's been times where we're like, oh, this is kind of sketchy, right? Or they released the ASOL one recently, right, where they they released him buffed and then nerf him harder than his original state. You're like,
yeah.
why are you guys like this? Um, I will say on the positive really quickly, Ryan Froxon, I think his name is
Mhm.
something like that. He was on Twitter. I follow him, and he talked about all the reasoning, and they owned up to missing the mark on this and that. I think that their communication, especially Freak doing that whole the dive episode where he talked about the balance decision with medias, which was
Yeah,
hilarious. First of all, great
yeah,
episode. So much respect. I think a lot of devs cannot talk with any to the community and also like own up to mistakes. And Freak, Froxon, and a couple other writers like are doing a great job. I just like there are also times where I see Malignance nerfed down to 10 damage on ARAM, and I'm like,
Hmm.
what is
What's the
this?
point?
And then it gets and now it's buffed back to 40. So I'm like, you missed the nerf by that
Yeah.
much. I mean, I'm glad you like, weren't stubborn like Blizzard is sometimes with their never patching something until a new expansion comes out. But it's ridiculous to me. I think like there's got to be some kind of line. I feel like
Yeah,
we're like good examples of we discuss the game all the time, discuss balance, right? And we're not high elo. But I do think like you got to be playing the game to balance
yeah,
the game, and I don't know if every balancer is. I think there's probably some very good numbers people there who can do great data analysis on stats and like big data sets. But how many of them are like league hardcore
yeah. Not
players who think
It's
about
not
this
even
stuff?
just about being a hardcore league player, but it's like having like a comprehensive understanding of the game, right? Like being someone like us who like watches and plays it and discusses it and kind of like we just don't. It's not like I only know how jungle works, right? I kind of feel like I have an understanding of how almost every item and every champion and every kind of like interaction kind of works because I've been playing this game. We've been talking about this game for years and years. So someone like that, I do think Freak fits into that area. I just don't know how much I like what his perspective is on League, and like a lot of his views and takes are like he he takes into account player perception, which is great, and then like accounting for player frustration over actual numbers and balance. But I loved Meteos'
Mhm.
point where it's like numbers can be almost meaningless because you realize that this champion is good or bad and because of what's popular right now. Like there's so many reasons to explain a statistic, and it's great that I think Riot and the Balance team is so quick to address their mistakes and like fix them and stuff. But I'm like, why are we making this mistake in the first place? Because there's a lot of changes that are huge head scratchers, right? I think the Aurelion Soul one is just a recent one that has happened so many times in the last 15 whatever years where it's like it is
Yep.
so obvious this was gonna go badly and you did it anyways. Literally, you could have.
Buff an item, nerf the champion, nerf the item.
Dude, it's
The
it's
true
the
combo.
Riot Classic. This has not been different. This was happening before Freak ever got there. This was happening 10 years ago. Like, it's kind of funny that like it's so predictable for us. We can sit here and predict it and look at it and be like, yeah, that's gonna get nerfed, and then they're gonna nerf the item, and then Aurelion Soul's gonna be back to dog shit, right? I feel like the same's gonna happen to Rek'Sai, where Rek'Sai is like has all this like they made her more of a bruiser now with all of her new stats, right? So like Rek'Sai has a terrible win rate. It's like 48%, no play rate ever since her changes. They're gonna buff her eventually, and she's gonna be too broken, and then they're gonna nerf her back into irrelevancy. And it's like I already see it happening. I already know it's gonna happen. It's so obvious because Riot does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then this is a new champion problem, right? Like Smolder is literally just the dumbest thing ever. Like he's not as broken now as he was before, but like, hot damn.
He's still giga broken. You can hit, what was it, like 19, 20 minutes is like a reasonable time to hit
Hmm.
225. That's
Hmm.
absurd. That's absolutely absurd. Like now that big nerf to the Q damage that requires items to scale, I think that's a better way to approach it. And I also do think, okay, there's two things. You've always heard from me for the last almost 5 years we've done this thing, 4 or 5 years we've done this podcast. There are some kids that are fundamentally unbalanceable, like a collie. And I hate hits like that. I think that those are so bad for the game because you either nerf to irrelevancy or be completely domineering, and there's no like way to really balance it, right? Because even if the numbers are balanced, a very good player will abuse it
Yeah.
then, right? And then pro is ruined. I don't know if Smolder's there yet. It could be. I think Riot is actually correct. I've finally gotten around to kind of accepting that like you do need to release new characters as like kind of giga busted or else people won't try it. I remember the first week, so many of my friends who are like gold and lower, they were like, Smolder's bad. Smolder takes like doesn't do anything. I'm like, no, no, no. Absolutely. I'm like watching Korean challengers and like Chinese challenger one tricks or whatever, like doing W max and like either ER abuse or Shojin or
Yeah.
whatever abuse. Like just starting a ring was better. Like, why would you start a sword? You look at that kid. Why are you starting Doran's sword? Like 80 carries, 80
Yeah.
carries, man. Anyways, my point is, I think that's fine, and I think Smolder could get somewhere because his kit's super
Yeah.
simple. So with enough number challenging balancing, maybe it's fine.
Yeah.
Cassante.
Yeah.
Cassante.
Cassante is a question mark. The changes they make to Cassante, I hope they stick, right. The ones to make him not as busted, no more slow in the queue. But I mean, another one that I want to talk about, and then we should move on, is Twisted Fate.
Okay.
The changes they made to Twisted Fate are so like before when they wrote down the numbers and before he was even played, everybody knew he was gonna be stupid busted. Like it's just not fair to get stunned and then to get like there's no counterplay. It's a point and click stun and then you get auto attack to death, right? So I do think like Twisted Fate. I mean, it's actually kind of cool that it didn't take over pro play, but like Twisted Fate is not okay. Okay, I'm glad they're nerfing him again, but Twisted Fate was not okay. That was just disgusting. Like that's something where it's like inherently that kind of kit, if the numbers are good, it's not balanceable. You know why? Because it's so simple. It's point and click stun and point and click DPS.
Autos are unmissable, and he has hard CC. I mean, the 2 second card. I think TF was a 2 second card was always broken
Mm.
strong, but like people just didn't have any reason to play him otherwise, right? Because it was pretty hard to play APT up at even medium to elo. But yeah, I agree with you. There was no
I
like
mean,
anyone who sits down for a playtest knows this is
yeah.
broken.
I mean, just like that's why their playtesters need to have hands, right? Like you give a good player a Twisted Fate with an auto reset on your stun and a ton of DPS, like they're gonna smurf. And then guess what? TF is the best top laner. He's the best top laner. In the like, what is? How does that make sense, guys? Come on, Riot. Should not have done that. No, no, no. Should not
Yeah.
have done that. So that's okay though.
One
Yeah.
One last thing though, I do appreciate that Freak finally acknowledged something that I think I was not. He was just been on the team not that long, but he said it in
Mm.
public, which I really appreciate. It, which is that he needs to look at the other regions a lot more because I have played on other servers before, and sometimes like before Lee Sin was broken here, Lee Sin was giga broken in China when I played on the Chinese server. Like everyone's abusing the shit. He was super broken. Then he finally got nerfed like 6 times. Right, lost attack speed on his E. Blah blah blah. I think that sometimes the nerfs will come down where we just like giga suck at a character in NA, but like the Koreans or whatever, or the Chinese or the European, maybe not the Europeans, but the other regions are just abusing the shit out of something, right? That NA is not caught onto because or UGG or Lolalytics just doesn't capture it,
Yeah.
right? So I think that there will be times it doesn't make sense, but there are also times where like across the region everyone's abusing it. As you said, we got to have more people with hands
Yeah.
there. And I think with a lot of ex pros being pushed out of the scene just because of this downsizing of at least NA, I feel like there's got to be spots open for them to at least give input or consult on
Yeah,
this
have
stuff.
a couple of professional playtesters.
Let Medios go in, like somebody,
Yeah.
please. He's not even a pro anymore for like 6 years, but I would still
I'm gonna
trust
be
him.
honest with Medios. I don't trust him. Okay, that guy is like he's like
Really?
hard stuck masters. He's a full on
Okay.
streamer personality guy. I don't know how
Okay.
good of the game he really is anymore. It's not like I'm saying his opinions are invalid, but when I think of like a high elo player that I want to playtester, Medios is not at the top of my list.
Okay, maybe that you're okay. I am very jungle brained because I was around when Midos was
Yeah.
really good. But yes, you're right. He's not peak elo anywhere near. He's not even in
Yeah, I don't
June
think so. Yeah.
constantly these days, from what I remember at least. But there are still pro
Yeah,
players.
he's
Like
he's
there are
Diamond
still
4 right
quite
now.
a
Yeah,
few.
no, it's rough for Medios. Okay.
I mean, I still think regardless of his elo, his takes were a
No, he,
lot
he
better
has
than
good takes on the
some.
games, but we need some of those like super high elo, incredibly crisp mechanic type of playtesters to hit the balance team for us.
We need all the ex immortal dropouts like Kenvi and stuff to just
Yeah,
go
yeah,
there
yeah. Hey,
instead.
take this champion, go Smurf on it. Let's see what you can do. All right, let's move on. We're back to LCS. Okay,
Mhm.
let's talk about it. So, what the hell happened? All right, I think League Dad he said he's gonna release some of our older videos, maybe. So we
Yeah.
might rehash some ideas, but let's just like super quickly like what the hell has been going on with LCS in the last couple of weeks? Because we haven't gotten a chance to, I
hmm
guess, show you what we've been talking about.
Yeah. So some of them might be rehashed. We did record episodes for those, but League does have his own personal issues. Totally understandable. I can guarantee that, like it makes sense. So if we get that content out, you'll hear it again. But let's rehash a little bit. I think the big narrative everyone probably has been waiting to hear us talk about is what the hell happened to
Yep.
C9,
Yep.
guys? Like, part of the reason we also didn't podcast is there's been like a 2 week break for LCS itself. So it's not like just we were gone, but they were also gone at the same time, which kind of worked out. What the major things about Cloud9 is like they started 3-0 and they're 4-5. So we can go from there. I have a lot of thoughts, but I wanted to hear your initial impressions now that we've had to let it simmer. It's not as fresh. It's not as fresh of a
Yeah.
wound, but how do you feel about them?
Yeah, so I already gave this take in one of the episodes. I don't remember if it was released or not, but I'm standing by this take, and it is that C9 lost a big part of their identity when they got rid of Sven. I feel like the bot lane for C9 went from one of their strongest aspects to completely irrelevant. Their bot lane used to dumpster people in the mid game, as in Berserker, and Sven would be setting up Berserker to just 1v9 a random team fight around Dragon or Skirmish or whatever, right? Doesn't happen anymore, right? They're fumbling dives, they're losing lane, they're getting double killed, they have a ton of bad matchups, they're spamming Callista over and over and not getting lane leads. It just feels like to me that C9, they have a great jungle mid, but their bot lane is such a big black hole um, that is the biggest change to me, right? Fudge is, yeah, he got worse from last year. Fudge is pretty mediocre and is not that I don't like watching him play, but it's not that big of a deal when you compare it to like the difference between last year's C9 and this year's C9 is that Fudge got a bit worse and is a bit more useless, but the bot lane became from one of their best aspects to a big black hole. So that's kind of my first
Okay.
stab at Cloud9. Yeah.
And I think I agreed before on the Zen thing, but I also wanted to really highlight like it really shows in Berserker's play. This guy was by far one of our biggest talents, if not our best player, maybe JoJo, depending on the week. And he was international level. Has the T1 Academy pedigree, right behind Guma. Like this guy was an A+ talent, right, or an S tier talent, depending on who you ask. And he has looked completely lost. We used to meme about him saying that, oh, he then said, oh, Berserker wouldn't play unless I was his support or whatever, right? I was like, oh, dude, that's just him being Korean friendliness, like when when Faker said hotshots LeBlanc was real better than Ez
Oh
or something
yes,
like
beautiful.
that. Like shit like that. I was like, yeah, there's no way. But I'm starting to get convinced. Like I cannot believe Sven is on the bench. I way back when he's a TSM 80 carry, I shit on this guy for
Yep.
breakfast. Like I was making fun of him all the time, and then he lost to Team Liquid. Was it with his E4 at Ezreal?
Hmm.
Legendary moment, right? Uh, but it's kind of obvious at this point, guys. I still don't even think it's Vulcan's fault. Like it's partially his fault. Okay, of course, he joins the team, did so much worse. He's not good at something with synergizing with this guy. But Vulcan's like leash to bot lane. This is not his style. He's not good at playing all these like range supports, which I've mentioned before. But like he's just being forced to play his frankly dog shit enchanters.
He scored your J.
He's played yeah, he's literally going through his core
Yep.
GJ arc. He's played one game of Nautilus, and then it's been 2 Bard, 2 Milia, 2 Renata, 2 Karma. Like, what are we doing? And his Renata really shows. Renata is like, to me, it's like the least sin of jungle support, right? It's you. If you are not a player of this, you'll look like Meteos on his 60-minute Lee Sin game. You will get so exposed. And his Renata ults have been bad. His Qs are okay. His W timings are average. Like he just doesn't know the
Bad
fundamentals
Ws.
of position.
Yeah.
Like when you see Carrier play it, you just know he's smurfing. Like you know that this is like he's gonna make 5 world class pros line up somewhere somehow, right? And it's all positioning. It's not like people don't actually do that naturally when you're at high elo, especially not in a range play. You have to do certain things and have your team work in certain ways to get there, right? And you have to see your openings.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've been shitting on Cloud9. I will give them some reprieve in that at least in their last 2 games they looked better. So they beat NRG and they had a close game against 100 Thieves, and Berserker was really fed on the
Mm-hmm.
Zeri. So
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, the last time we saw them, they were technically on an uptick, right? Which is, okay, fine, sure, you're technically on an uptick. Could be worse, right? They had a very, very close game against 100 Thieves, right? Berserker was actually fed. So, the team is going through some growing pains, right? They got a new mid laner, they got a new support, and it's just a little tough. It's just a little rough in the house. And I have to feel like Vulcan lost something. He definitely something died on FlyQuest and never came back with him. Like he is not the same player that was on EG. On EG, that guy was cracked. Vulcan was the best support on EG by far, or the best support in the league, like on EG, right? With Danny and
I mean, he was still good when he was back on Cloud9, wasn't it? He was on Cloud9 originally
yeah,
too.
no, he was good then too. I'm just
This
saying that he was good on Cloud9. He went to EG. He was good on EG, and then he went to FlyQuest, and then something on him died, and he didn't bring it back when he came back to FlyQuest. He left something as a
mm,
corpse in FlyQuest, and on C9, I just feel like there's something missing in his play. I just don't feel like he has hands, honestly. I really feel like he's not very clutch as a player. He was known for being really, really clutch as a player. That was his thing. He was a clutch support player. He's not. He has no clutch. I don't feel it. I don't get that. He doesn't have the sauce anymore. Sometimes you look at a player, you see how they play, and you're like, yeah, you can lane a bit better. You can have a bit bigger of a champion pool. You could be a bit more consistent. You get caught out. But then they make a play like, okay, well at least he has the sauce. Right? Vulcan was that player where sometimes he'd make a couple oopsies. He'd actually make quite a bit of oopsies in engages, but he had the sauce. Vulcan lost the sauce, man. He just doesn't have it anymore. Or like at least Berserker in the last few games, I could tell that okay, he still kind of has the sauce at least. But man, Vulcan has disappointed me a tiny bit. So yeah, uh, that's it on Sin.
I don't know if Berserker has the sauce, man. I think he just got Zeri got buffed, and as I predicted in an unreleased episode, like that's the only time he looked good. I mean, he looked good against the team they always beat, basically, right? In regular season, they always smack energy around, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
But
we can agree. It was only we got some time to debate about Berserker. I still think he has some sauce left in him. I will say,
oh yeah, I mean, Zeri's still good this patch. I
yeah.
agree. I'm
No,
kidding.
no, no.
He probably
Yeah. No, you have a point
your
though.
support does hold you back, doesn't it?
Your support
Jeez.
does hold you back, and also it's not like Berserker seems like the guy who's like, I'm the leader that's gonna influence the team and bring us back in morale. He's the guy who doesn't say much and probably has a lot of hands, right? Like if the team morale is bad, he's probably just going to be bad. So that's kind of my take. Like like this is kind of my complaint about Blabber. Okay, it's not like Blabber's been playing bad. Blabber has probably been either the best or second best player on C9, right? It's between him and JoJo. They look the best so far.
Yep.
But what I do know, I'm not for sure, but what I do know as a outside looking in, Blabber is not the guy who like rallies your team to be better than the sum of your parts, right? Blabber is not the guy to be like, hey, you made a mistake, you're down. Let me cheer you up. Let me turn this team around through like emotions, through like things that are happening outside the game, through like effective words, right? That was Sven. Sven was the cheerleader. Sven was the coach that wasn't the coach on the team, right? So I think that's kind of what they're missing. They're missing that like that the
Leader.
heart. Yeah, the leader sure is one way, but the
Mm.
heart and the soul of the team.
Heart.
I feel like Sven must have been that for many, many years. And it doesn't feel like Cloud9 has that right now. They don't feel like they have that like that undying nerve that they used to have where it's like, yeah, C9's inting, and then they win the game anyways, right? That was like that's when you can tell that this team has like heart and soul, like the power of friendship. Energy, as much as they int, as many games that they've been losing, I still feel like they have the power of friendship. They still have heart in their team. Because they'll int their brains off and they'll lose a bunch of games, and I will still look at their play and feel like, yeah, they're a bunch of dumbasses, but they definitely believe in each other and they have like heart and soul still, you
Mm.
know? So that's kind of what I felt like Cloud9 has lost a bit. Um,
I do definitely agree on the NRG part as
yeah,
well.
yeah, because they're a bunch of inters, man. Holy shit. Let's talk about them now. They are also don't have a great score. What are they at right now? They're at
I thought they were tied
yeah,
4-5,
4-5 with
right?
Cloud9.
Last.
For some reason, they have the
Mhm.
same score against as Cloud9. They lost to Cloud9. They had a good little win streak in the middle. I still feel like they're a good team, though. I still like don't even care that they're losing this much. I still feel like as many games as they lost and as much inters as they are and as dumb as they seem, that they're still a good team. Is that weird? Is that no? I don't
No,
think that's
I
yeah. Okay.
agree. I think unironically it might be Cope because NRG was our EU Slayers 2 G2, like they're our
Yeah.
heroes. Unironically, I think this if there was a team that was like regular season doesn't matter, it's an 8-team league, we can just do whatever to like practice, right? Because the items have changed a lot too. And we'll get it together. We know, like they won their split when they were like terrible in regular season last year,
Yeah, they were
relatively
actually.
speaking,
Yeah.
right? So I have not 100% faith, but I have a lot of faith that this is a team that will get it together when it matters. And I think the second half, which is we're technically in the
Yep.
second half, the second half of the round robin is when it
Yep.
matters, right? So I think they'll be
Yep.
fine. They'll at least qualify and then investify. I would never count them. I would never be like, if I had to pick between NRG and like 100 Thieves, it would be actually tough, even if their rankings are way different. Like it to me, it's like picking T1 when you're KT last year. You're like, yeah, NRG is easy. They're so bad right now.
No, no.
No,
They're
absolutely
scary.
not. Don't
Yeah.
do it.
That I mean,
The power of friendship will smack you. Pal Faker is on that team.
honestly, the worst thing you can do to CLG or not CLG, sorry, Energy, is to underestimate them. You know, you just can't do it because if you take them seriously, at least you stand a fighting chance. But if you underestimate them, they're twice as strong. You give them extra superpowers. It's weird that it works like that, but it's kind
Mhm.
of logic. All right, let's not much to say about Energy because I feel like it's the same sentiment. They just run it down in the regular season, and we'll see what they do later. um, so
Mhm.
let's talk about another team. Let's talk about 100 Thieves. You already mentioned them. 6-3. They're
Mhm.
what, second place, I think, right? Yeah, I
Yeah, they're
think they're
second
second.
place, and they're 4-0 the last couple games.
They are, I think, unexpected for pretty much every analyst, podcast, everything. I mean, I had them like
Yeah.
fifth place, which I think is still pretty good compared to what most people put them. I mean, our rankings that we do on the podcast is end of split, so we'll see if they actually end anywhere impressively by the end of the split. But hey, they're second place. They have four rookies. Okay, some of those rookies aren't technically rookies, like Busio, not Busio. Some of their players aren't technically literally rookies. I'm like blanking on who their players are right now, but it's basically four green players, like four really, really rookie type of
I think you meant Ayla,
Ayla.
right? For
Yeah,
100
100
Thieves?
Thieves.
Busio was on the team last year, so I don't
Yeah,
blame you
it's
at all.
Ayla, yeah.
Ayla and Quid are definitely not real rookies, but they're
They're
basically
basically
rookies
rookies,
in
right?
this
Like
league.
Quid didn't even get a full split, right? Ayla has, you know, half a split here, a split there, team there, right? So
On a boomed
no,
team,
no.
like
So very impressive that they're able to keep it together. Will they keep it going though? That's the question because there's not much to comment on this team because they're so new and fresh. Besides, like, will it keep going? Will 100 Thieves stay at the top? Stay second place?
I don't think they'll stay second place, but I also don't necessarily think they'll get worse. I think that there was a string of games, especially that Cloud9 game at the end of the before the break, where they went to like 45 minutes. Zeri almost got a pentakill 1v4 at the end. I was like, oh no, and they barely held on. I think they're tenacious. I would say like River continues to be pretty good. I think Quid has. I don't know if this was on the unreleased episode, like props to Quid. Like we've been
Yeah.
flaming this guy all of last year, and like maybe Double F influenced me. I don't know, but I will say like this guy with River is at least like worth an import slot, like so far.
Yeah.
Maybe I might eat my words in like 2 weeks, but he's earned a lot of credit. He's been stable. I totally could see how a player with this playstyle, who's like a rock stable, does the thing. Like to me, he's a textbook good player. He would definitely kill it in
Mhm.
tryouts when you're like trying to do trials with players. And then the last thing I'll highlight is, damn, Sniper is not clean. He is not veteran, but this guy does not give up. And when you see a rookie that like gets his ass handed to him in lane, dies like once or twice to like a very obvious gank, but then actually team fights and doesn't lose focus, that's a good sign. To me, like that's a really good sign. And I mean, we always talk about how young he is, but I'm of the opinion like you can improve certain things, but if you're tilting stuff like that rarely goes away with experience. It might go down, but you'll still tilt when it matters.
Yeah, I mean, I like the call out in that he has team play innately within him in his rookie year, right? When we compare, the very easy comparison to make with Sniper is tenacity. Pretty much the same situation almost, right? 100 Thieves rookie getting a chance on a roster, kind of coming in with no other experience, hyped up, really good top laner, right? Tenacity had zero team play. He had a couple of okay individual moments, no team play
Mhm.
whatsoever in his bones. He could not teleport to the right time at the right place to save his life. But Sniper has kind of the opposite, where he's kind of an inter, and he's kind of freaking useless for a little while. But then he actually team fights and team plays and gets stuff done with his team. And I'm like, okay, well, who cares? Laning phase doesn't matter. Lose lane, win game, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, props to Sniper for that. Yeah, and I think River has proved himself to be one of the probably the most valuable junglers in the league, right? Like, you know, obviously Blabber is on Cloud 9. He's gonna always be the fan favorite, and he's always gonna be considered one of the best. But like, River has been on so many terrible rosters and made them look so much better than they have any right to be, right? Golden Guardians is a great example. 100 Thieves is a great example for this year. Even the year before when he was on Dignitas, right? That
When he looked good on Dignitas, I was like, oh
Yeah,
Jesus.
I want to challenge Blabber. Throw Blabber on a trash roster. Does he actually look good? I am starting to doubt that. I'm starting to wonder, not because he's a bad player, because of that thing we were talking about, the heart and soul, the leadership. I don't know if Blabber has that, and I think River does. I think River has that sort of tenacity, especially coming from another region and always being the underdog, and actually still looking good against some of the top teams in the world at like MSI and stuff, where you know I wonder what happens if you put Blabber on a trash org and you put River on Cloud 9. What changes there? What happens? Do we get to see something a little ridiculous? Do we start to doubt some of our Blabber love? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's blasphemy. I don't know.
I mean, some people are just good at cleaning up trash, but but I agree. It's very tough. I always wonder what it'd be like for Bjergsen to be on a dog shit like bottom tier like Immortals roster. Because I mean, Doublelift was on some bad rosters back in the day. Like CLG was not good until they were
Yeah.
really good.
I would even
So
say when Doublelift went over to Team Liquid, like initially in 2018, that was not considered that good of a roster. Okay, Impact was good, Doublelift was good, But then you had Pole Belter, who was kind of on a downslide, right? You had Smithy, who was also kind of on a he was on CLG before, but he was kind of on a failing CLG, right? And you had Olay, who was a
Hmm.
complete no name. It was like it was interesting that Doublelift was able to turn around a bad roster. I do think Doublelift had that effect. He could turn around bad rosters. Well, before he went to 100 Thieves,
Hmm.
but
You can't hit
yeah, you
every
can.
time. I give a lot of flame to Double, but like he definitely made a lot of sketchy rosters. Like you could have some confidence that they would have a fighting
Yeah,
chance. You just can't save all of
no,
them,
it's true.
man.
You
That
can't.
100 Thieves roster was
Yeah, that
doomed.
was rough. That was rough. All right, let's move on. Let's move on.
Closer. Oh, go
Don't
ahead. Yeah,
don't don't
let's
say
move
his
on.
name here. That's not
Don't
allowed here.
don't
Yeah,
invoke
don't
his
invoke his
name
name.
here. Dude, that guy
Uh,
is the biggest drop off you've ever
Yeah,
seen.
I think we can just start talking about next week's games, right? Because honestly, like FlyQuest number one, they look good, but like they're just kind of stopping people, right? Besides like two games, with one of them to NRG, right, where it's just like FlyQuest is just dominating everybody. So we'll just talk about them when we predict some games for next week. So let's just do that, okay? So FlyQuest versus Cloud9, 2 week break. This is going to be probably one of the most interesting matches to start off our week. Is what's gonna happen? Is Cloud9 gonna bounce back and be like, hey, we're number one, FlyQuest, you had some fun at the top, but time to take you down a peg. We needed a little vacation. Or is FlyQuest just gonna be good, just gonna be solid, and Cloud9 won't be able to step up enough? Like, will it be close? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jensen and Inspired have actually been quite good. Whipple has been about as good as I expected, which is like he's not as bad as he was when Team Blue was doing bad, right? He's actually doing fairly fine, and I think it's because Inspired is really good. I think that despite me saying that though, I don't think FlyQuest is that legit. Like I don't think they're a shoe in for first place, but they will beat
Mm.
C9 because the top lane matchup is such a big the playstyle matchup is such a big delta. Like I don't think current Fudge against current Bwipu does not give a shit and will try to abuse and like push his limits in top lane. It's not close, right? Like Fudge would have to get really lucky and have Whipple screw up a dive like die twice for him to like win, in my opinion. So yeah, all is to say like in their bot lane's not like a pushover either. So this shouldn't be close. Even though if you're just saying two blank teams without knowing the players power level wise, it's not that far apart. I think this could have been if it wasn't for a bad
Mm.
matchup, I think they could I could win, but not against this team with Whippo and Inspired in it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, last time they played, pretty sure Masu and Buzio completely dumpstered like Berserker and Vulcan like over and over again. Like,
Exposed them. It was actually one of the biggest beatings I've seen Berserker take up to that
dude,
point.
that was I don't know if that was an exposure or if that was like Berserker just like got PayPal'd, man. Like he just wanted to kill himself over and over again. It's like, dude, just go farm, man. That's like 3 waves you're losing to die for a 1v1.
It was not Vulcan's fault. Vulcan didn't do
No,
anything
he
with that.
was
So
a mega inter there. I mean, we don't know what the comms were like, but holy cow, Berserker, that was rough. So I'm gonna go with a very controversial guess. This is called the I if you told me to bet money, I would not bet money, but I'm gonna go for this. I think Cloud9 is actually going. See, Cloud9 has this thing that I was complaining about this roster not having heart, whatever, blah 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 blah. I don't know if I fully believe that. It just kind of looks like that. Cloud9 as an org, as a roster, has had that thing where if they lose to a team, they like want to get revenge. I've noticed that in the many years that this team has played, that they will cook up a way to beat the person that beat them, right? So like you can
mhm.
tell Cloud9 turns something on when they play NRG to win because they lost to them in the finals, right? And then they lose to 100 Thieves and it's like, oh gosh, darn it. But then they still beat NRG, so it doesn't feel that bad. Like I feel like Cloud9 is that team. They lost to FlyQuest. It was pretty freaking one-sided. Berserker's gonna be pissed. Vulcan's gonna be pissed. I think they're gonna come up. They're gonna play better than what we expect from Cloud9, and they're gonna lose to like Immortals or something. Like that's the Cloud9 I feel like we're in the realm of. So I'm actually predicting Cloud9. I think that they're going to try way harder than they should to beat FlyQuest, and it'll actually work out.
The problem with that statement is you're absolutely right. They tried to beat the guys who beat them
Mm,
before. I'll just leave it on this. This time they got beat by more than half the league. They don't have enough time to prep for five
that's true.
teams because Cloud has never had a record this bad since like the Days High had to come back. I think was like the stat or some shit like that. They haven't been like worse than this record since like 2017 or 19 or whatever it
Yeah.
was. So this is absurd.
Yeah, I mean, but FlyQuest is
But
the first place team, so there's some merit there to want to target the first place team that
yeah,
beat you, and the complete slaughtering that happened in
that's
bot
fair.
lane. So that's just my take. Do I think it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen? I'm not betting money on it. So there you go. Um, let's
I
talk
see.
about the next interesting matchup. Is gonna be Team Liquid versus Energy because we didn't get to talk about Team Liquid too much. So let's finally get around to talking about them. What do you want to say about Team
Mm-hmm.
Liquid, and what do you think about this matchup?
I mean, I'm pretty happy with where they're at. The third place. It's not a good third place. It's 5-4, but it's a third place. They've been 3-1 the last 4 games, which is like unironically one of the best spurts of form they've shown in a hot minute. Even though they made Worlds last year, they've been just very up and down, right? Even in regular season, they rarely 2-0 us a week. And so I think Liquid has been looking a little better. I do think that there was time that they needed Umti to get into it and do Umti. That last game, after he lost to, was it 100 Thieves, and he played really passively, that last game against Shopify, this guy played in the other jungle. He was literally just like, he was double jungling, but with the enemy jungle. It was so funny. This guy is so unhinged when he just like, he said basically after that game in the interview, which his English is better than Core's. Like, I didn't expect it to be that good. I knew it was fine. This guy is funny, and he was just like, yeah, I just thought, what, screw it, or whatever he said. He was just like, I was so ashamed of like how we played against 100 Thieves and we lost that like I was like, I'm just not gonna care, right? And when he didn't care, he just absolutely smurfed. So I actually think if they can keep that energy, which I don't know, but I think if we look on the form of their last game, they are so ready to be like an exciting team. They might not win every game, but I think the boring Team Liquid went away in that game, and I'm hoping that it carries over until playoffs or through playoffs.
Yeah, okay, sure. That's a good dream to have.
I just, dude, that game was so sick, and Umti literally, like, he just was playing
Yeah,
Smurf
that's
Q
true.
the whole
Well,
time.
from my perspective, I power rank Shopify 8th, bottom of the league, the worst team. So, I'm kind of like, okay, great. You're feeling
I,
aggressive against the worst team in the league. Good job, Team Liquid. You go get them.
Shopify has only beaten NRG, C9, and FlyQuest. So,
Yeah,
like, as far as I'm concerned, was it FlyQuest? They've beaten all the top, like,
yeah, with
contenders.
Scion
Are
mid,
they?
okay, with a bunch of really stupid. That's to me, all those Shopify wins.
If you can beat the top 3 power rank teams with cheese, I don't think you're 8th. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think they're 8th because the other options
Okay.
that for 8th just don't make sense, right? Like even Immortals and Dignitas I think are better than them. Are more consistent. I don't know. I just don't think teams take Scion mid seriously, and they were just like running it down against it. Like it was not good. And as soon as you started banning Scion mid, Shopify looked like trash. So I'm just saying, Team Liquid to me a little boring. No, I mean I don't think it's gonna change. I think the game against Energy might be hype, but if Team Liquid ever gets in the driver's seat against Energy, I just know they're gonna choke up and they're gonna slow down so much, right? So here's what's gonna happen, okay? One of two things. First thing against Energy. If Team Liquid gets ahead, it's like what I said. They're just gonna slow it down, they're gonna bounce waves, they're gonna play for every 5 minutes at Dragon, and it's gonna be a snooze fest. If Energy gets ahead, Energy is going to push the tempo over and over again, and then Team Liquid will get drawn into fighting just back and forth over and over again. And then we'll see. We'll see who wins. I'm going with Energy.
Mm,
I think Energy is going to win, but
mm.
actually, maybe they won't actually, because I'm kind of actually thinking Team Liquid will still win. It'll just be boring though. I don't know. This is a tough one.
Team Liquid, based on what you just said, I mean, we didn't know, it wasn't literally a 50-50, but Team Liquid does have more ways they could win, but they might still not look decisive. That is true. You guys know me. If it's a close match, which is 5-4 versus 4-5, I'll always vote Liquid. Like that is what I do believe in them this week, and I have no reason to believe that. Well, I actually NRG could just destroy it for the rest of the season just so that they make sure they hit
Yeah.
playoffs. But I'm hoping it doesn't start with this game.
Yeah.
I think Liquid is legit. I really think so, and I don't think Shopify is as bad as you're saying, but we can agree to disagree because they might just go 0-2, completely get crapped on, and I'll be like, ah.
Yeah, I think Shopify's
It was
bad. I mean, I was
silent.
trying to hype up Shopify, and I literally week one happened, and I was like, you know what, I'm off the train. Bye bye. So I'm gonna go Energy. I think Energy is gonna win. I think they're gonna be Team Liquid. Is it gonna be pretty? No, I don't think it's gonna be pretty at all. I think it's gonna be very unclean. I think we're gonna wonder multiple times throughout the game. Wow, Energy's ahead. So how are they gonna throw this? I think I'm gonna think that a couple times when I watch it, but I still think Energy will pull it out. So let's move on to another one. Let's talk about 100 Thieves versus FlyQuest. Now, I know this seems like a pretty, first place for second place, but I do think a lot of people are instantly going to go with FlyQuest, even though it is first place for second place. But, you know, that might not be the case, right? 100 Thieves, second place, they earned that. They deserve that. They are untapped potential, right? FlyQuest, they're really good, but we kind of know how good at least their top side is, right? We know that where Bwipo, Jensen, Inspired, we kind of know what their ceilings are, right? Masu and Buzio are still developing, but all of 100 Thieves is untapped potential. Anything could happen. Who do you think is taking it?
I think anything could happen, but we should like look at how they're actually playing. I actually think like Flycos lost to Shopify right before the break happened, and they lost to Oriana mid, and like Boogie just played an incredible jungle game into Inspired. I think that this could be closer. I actually think that because it's such a veteran team, they took the break and they probably weren't as hungry as the young team. So I think at least the first game, 100 Thieves will probably look better. They probably will be cooking more, being willing to be more experimental in terms of their gameplay. Not so much the draft, but their gameplay. So I want 100 Thieves to win, so I will vote for them. Would I bet on them? Maybe a very small amount if this was a betting thing. But I because the odds would be good, right? The odds would be very good despite this being a first versus second. So I'm going off of the young bloods, really hungry. They had 2 weeks of sitting around, and they really want to prove that because this is the game for first, guys. It's not just a game. This is you beat this, and then these four semi rookie slash younger players are just we're
In
first,
first place
guys, and,
for
and
the first
we
time ever.
first, and even though we're tied, we beat first, right? So pretty damn good. This is a big game for
Yeah,
them.
I'm gonna go.
Jensen's been first so many times in his life. I don't know if he cares. I mean, obviously he cares, but I don't know if it's like as big of
As
a
big of a
deal.
deal, yeah. I'm gonna go the opposite route, where I'm gonna say that 100 Thieves had a lot of momentum. They barely clutched out and beat C9 in their last game of the first half, and that is
Mm-hmm.
amazing to feel. Like it's kind of like they got a little mini victory, right? You win a big game against a big
Um,
team, and then you go into a big break. It's like kind of winning a final. It's not really, but what happens when like you're kind of inexperienced and you're kind of doing that the first time, you kind of slow down, you lose momentum after 2 week break for the first time ever for Sniper, for the first time ever for some of their players. It could be a death sentence to their momentum, and I don't think FlyQuest is going to miss a beat. I don't think they'll care. I don't think they'll be phased at all. I think that they might not be perfectly polished, but FlyQuest will be unfazed. 100 Thieves could get a little nervous. They could get a little jittery. Oh my god, this is the match for first place. This is our first game coming back from a 2 week break. Oh god. Okay. We gotta win. We gotta beat Flag. And then FlyQuest is just cool, calm, collected, and then take care of business. So I'm gonna go FlyQuest. And also, I've just decided to oppose you in all the predictions as well. But because you can kind of find reasons to like go either way. But I actually do think that momentum is gonna be huge for rookie teams. I think FlyQuest is gonna take it.
I mean, that's fair. We also just usually agree too much anyway. It's
Yeah.
just like by nature of having talked to each other for too long and podcasted too long. When it's just us two, it's like, yeah, no, that makes sense, Mitchell. I was going with
Yes, man.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you have that devil on your shoulder, let it out there. Let him
Yeah,
advocate. I want to hear
definitely.
it.
I mean,
Although I think you're wrong, but I
no,
want to hear it.
same. Yeah, same. You're dumb, but it's okay. I respect your dumbness. No, I'm kidding. You're not dumb. Okay, let's go with the last match. This one you'll like. We might even agree on this one. Team Liquid versus C9. TL versus the Cloud Nines, the oldest orgs in the league now. A bunch of grandpas, just what are they now? Like 70,
Oh,
80 years old, just trying to like. They can barely hold their mouse. They can barely press Q and W at the same time to combo their move. Like, it's rough for these two old geezers. Who's gonna win it, huh? Team Liquid versus Cloud9 in the retirement home.
I so I was right. last time when I said Liquid would
Yep.
win, and I thought it would be a huge upset. It was not a huge
No.
upset. It was actually just the quietest wet fart at the end of the fucking 0-3 season for a 0-3 Super Week. I was like, oh my god, I was right with the monkey
Yep.
paw. I still stand by it. I think Liquid has not had an issue with Cloud9 specifically in regular season games for some unexplainable reason. Even when they were a shit show, even when they had Harry, they still can beat them. It's just a matchup thing. Like just like how APA is such a terrible matchup into Palafox, like I think that they have no mental block against Cloud9, and they have no reason to be scared of Cloud9, but they definitely will respect it because these are the two elite orgs of esports in NA. For League esports, this is a match you'll never try to throw, in my opinion. It's like T1 against KT, even though KT might be dog shit on a roller coaster too, they will try. They will stop KT if they can, right? So, I'll also say, I think Liquid is still favored. They looked really unusually solid in the game. And at the time, it was very obvious that C9 was on fire, but even if C9 was fine, it would have been a close match. So, yeah, Liquid wins this. I mean, it's a very on-brand Kevin take.
Wow. Wait, you're predicting Team Liquid? No way. Because guess what? So am I, actually. I think Team Liquid's going to win. Yeah, I think we're going to agree on this one. Actually,
you prefaced you were trying to oppose me at every turn, and then you're like, wait a minute. But
no, I can't.
Unless Cloud9's there.
I feel like Cloud9's going to try and pull out the stops against FlyQuest. Maybe they win. But I don't think they'll get their groove back. I don't know. Maybe I'm not even consistent. Maybe I'm just talking out of it. Maybe Cloud9 I should be predicting him to lose to FlyQuest and Team Liquid. I have no idea. This team is baffling. Okay, I don't know what Cloud9 is doing at all. So I'm gonna predict Team Liquid is gonna be Cloud9. And actually, we kind of have a curse. Whenever we agree on Team Liquid, it usually doesn't work out for us. So
I can't hear you. The signal's bad. Seattle internet.
But I genuinely think Team Liquid's gonna beat Cloud9. So it's just.
Okay, great. That's what I love to hear.
So,
that's all I heard.
I think they'll win. What are my reasonings? I don't really know anymore. It's pretty late, man.
Dude, at some point you just gotta start feels predicting. Because when we try to use our brains, especially last year, second split, is just our summer season. It was just absolutely everything on fire. None of our guesses were landing anywhere. Like
I don't think I've had a good streak of like good predictions since DRX won Worlds. Like it's been that long. That's like over a year. That's a year, like a couple months now. Like I haven't.
Hey, if you're gonna invest all of your good mojo, that's the time.
And I cannot believe I should have bet on that one. Holy cow! I would have made money.
The odds were so crazy.
Cow, I would have been so rich if I bet back then. Because I was the only DRX stan on this whole podcast, and it actually fucking happened.
Yeah, we clowned on you so many games in a row. It's honestly probably the world record of the amount of times we clowned on you. And we're wrong.
I know, dude. Alistair was mega clowning on me, and then when they actually won, it felt so good. It felt so good. So in your face, Alistair. Just kidding. Okay. Anything else we want to talk about? I think we're closing. We're coming up in an hour, which is fair for a comeback podcast episode. But I think we should close it out now. It's getting late. We gotta go to work. What do you want to say?
I would say that I think that this is only because we might not re-release the other episodes. I think that the content we've been doing is great. The time cuts are great. Pros is my favorite segment by far, other than Medios being on the dive permanently, basically. I think pros, where all the pros talk to each other, this is necessary. The league needs this. We needed this for so many years. When the pros were making were getting the bag, we didn't get any of those personalities. So only the established names really grew fan bases. But there are so many like well-spoken, or not necessarily well-spoken, but just interesting personalities out there that we don't know shit about. When I saw like APA talking on pros, I was like, yeah, no, he's likable. I mean, I kind of got the impression because I watched Liquid stuff, but there's all these other even lesser known people that needed this exposure. And the only unfortunate part is not everyone's watching this like after segment anything, right? Because it's been tainted by bad ones. But that was legitimately funny to watch pros. Oh, so to clarify, if you haven't seen it, pros is when the pros from different teams just like they bantered, they discussed the games, they discussed like changes, discussed like what happened in the league, discussed the meta. It's just fight. I think that, dude, if this was a tradition since like the 500K viewership days of LCS, I think so many more pros would have there would have been more beefs out there. There would have been more friendships and rivalries and
Definitely more
storylines.
views.
But we just lost all
Definitely
that.
more views.
The
Yeah.
second we got franchised, I feel like everything just everyone's just stopped caring about content.
Yeah, no, we should. I definitely think if we had this segment for years and years ago, especially with Double After Bjergsen and stuff still there, we would have had more views in general. We would have had more followers on Twitter and stuff like that. More views for individual streams and content. That shit snowballs fast. That's just snowball. As soon as you have one little engine to get content out, it just starts spreading like wildfire, right? Especially if it's good content. So, speaking of that, though, let's talk about this channel a bit more. We're going to diversify in the content, right? We're gonna make more episodes like usual, but we kind of talked about how we're gonna maybe do some YouTube shorts, maybe experiment. So if you see some weird stuff, don't panic. We're still doing the podcast. We're still gonna have these episodes, but you might see some different content pop out every now and then. Now that I finally have time, I might be throwing some stuff out. I already talked to Kevin about it. I already talked to League Dad about it. Alistair is I'm sure he's fine with it. So yeah, just look out for that, folks, on the podcast. But otherwise,
looking forward to it. More content, more experimental content. I mean, not everything's going to hit, but we're like the LCS. We're trying to build and diversify.
Yes, and we are watching out for Kevin's cat right there. That was a bit of a jump scare there. That actually spoke to me. All right, well, that's going to do it.
She wants to be on the podcast.
Hey, diversifying content, right? Maybe we'll have her on there. All right, that's going to do it for us on the podcast. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.